Greyhaven has lived in perpetual twilight for 3 centuries, bound by a pact with the Night Council. The city clings to coastal cliffs like a ghost refusing to let go, its stone buildings weathered by endless mist and the relentless crash of waves below. No sunrise has touched these cobblestones since the year the darkness came. No birdsong heralds the morning. Only the flicker of oil lanterns and the pale glow of the moon mark the passage of time. The people of Greyhaven have learned to live in this eternal dusk. Fishermen navigate by starlight, children play in the gray half-light that never brightens, and the old ones tell stories of a sun they barely remember. But beneath the resignation, beneath the acceptance, burns a quiet desperation, a longing for warmth, for color, for the promise of a new day. Tonight a storm rolls in from the obsidian sea, clouds churning like the anger of forgotten gods. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating the city in brief, violent flashes. Thunder shakes the foundations of homes built to withstand centuries of darkness, and on the rocks below the lighthouse, a ship breaks apart against the cliffs, its timbers screaming as they splinter. This wreck will awaken a secret that could end the night forever. Lara Voss is already running before most people realize what's happened. She's always been like this, first to respond, last to give up. The shipwright's daughter knows these cliffs better than anyone, knows every treacherous path down to the foam-slicked rocks where the sea tries to claim its victims. Her dark hair whips around her face as she scrambles down, rope coiled over her shoulder, her calloused hands finding purchase on stone that would defeat softer palms. She can see the wreckage now, the ship's broken spine, cargo spilling into churning water, and there, a figure clinging to a piece of driftwood. Lara doesn't hesitate. She plunges into the icy water, gasping as it steals her breath and swims hard against the current. The sailor is barely conscious when she reaches him, his lips already turning blue, his eyes unfocused and distant. "Hold on," she commands, looping the rope around them both. "Just hold on." She signals to her crew above, feels the rope go taut, and they're being hauled up, water streaming from their clothes, the sailor's weight heavy against her. They collapse on solid ground, and Lara immediately begins checking for injuries. That's when she notices his hand clutched tight around something even in his dying moments. His fingers are cold, stiff, but she gently pries them open. A piece of parchment falls into her palm, a map, half burned at the edges, water-damaged but still legible. And on it, a sigil that begins to glow with pale blue light. The sailor's eyes focus suddenly, finding hers with desperate intensity. "The lantern," he wheezes, blood on his lips. "Star-forged. Only way to." His breath rattles, fails. "Break the night." He dies in her arms as the sigil pulses like a heartbeat, like a promise, like hope itself. Lara carries the sailor's body back to the city, but her mind is elsewhere, on the map burning a hole in her pocket. She waits until she's alone in her workshop, surrounded by ship's ribs and coils of rope, the smell of tar and sawdust, before she spreads the parchment on her work table. In the lamplight, the map comes alive. The sigil flares brighter, and suddenly she can see what was invisible before, hidden passages beneath Greyhaven, marked in luminescent ink, ancient ruins, forgotten vaults, and at 3 specific locations, symbols that match fragments of something larger. The star-forged lantern. Lara's hands tremble as she traces the lines. She's heard the stories, of course, everyone in Greyhaven has. The lantern that supposedly existed before the pact, a relic of the old world when the sun still rose. Legend says it was shattered and hidden, that reassembling it could break the Night Council's hold on the city. But legends are just stories people tell themselves to make the darkness more bearable, aren't they? The map suggests otherwise. 3 fragments, a crystal from the deepest sea trench, a feather from the night bird that roosts atop the highest spire, and something else. The 3rd location is obscured, the ink smudged by seawater. Lara stares at the map until her vision blurs, until the glowing lines seem to pulse in time with her heartbeat. She thinks of her father, who died still dreaming of sunrise. Her mother, who faded away in the endless twilight. Her younger sister Myra, who has never known anything but this half-life in shadow. If there's even a chance, even the smallest possibility, that this is real, she has to try. The map leads Lara to the old catacombs beneath the cathedral, a place where even the boldest citizens fear to tread. The air grows colder with each step down, and the darkness here is different, thicker, older, alive with whispers of the long dead. Her torch flickers, casting wild shadows on walls carved with warnings in languages she doesn't understand. She follows the map's glowing path deeper, until she reaches a vaulted chamber where the stone itself seems to breathe. That's when the cold wind rises, extinguishing her torch and plunging her into absolute darkness. You tread where mortals fear to breathe. The voice comes from everywhere and nowhere, echoing off ancient stone. Then he materializes from shadow itself, tall and pale, with silver hair that catches what little light remains. His eyes are the color of moonlight on water, ancient and weary and impossibly beautiful. Lord Caelum, the vampire who sealed the pact 300 years ago, the architect of Greyhaven's eternal night. That lantern does not give, he continues, his voice soft but carrying an edge sharp as broken glass. Every fragment taken steals a life. The crystal is guarded by an abyssal beast that has claimed 100 souls. The feather belongs to a creature of pure nightmare. And the third piece, he pauses, studying her with those ageless eyes. The third piece requires a sacrifice no mortal should be asked to make. Lara forces herself to stand straight, to meet his gaze without flinching. Then, why hasn't someone destroyed the fragments? If they're so dangerous, why let them exist at all? Something flickers across Caelum's face, surprise perhaps or admiration. Because they cannot be destroyed. They can only be claimed or guarded, and I have spent 3 centuries ensuring they remain separate. Why? The question bursts from her. Why trap us all in this twilight? What could possibly be worth condemning generations to live without sunrise? For a long moment he says nothing. Then, the alternative was worse. The alternative was extinction. He begins to turn away, to dissolve back into shadow, but Lara's voice stops him. Help me. He turns back, genuine shock on his features now. You know where the fragments are. She presses. You know how to retrieve them safely. If the cost is truly what you say, then I need someone who understands it. Someone who can help me decide if the price is worth paying. Why would I help you destroy what I created? Lara takes a step closer, close enough to see that his eyes aren't truly cold. There's something in them, something like longing buried under centuries of resignation. Because you're tired, she says softly. Because 300 years is a long time to carry guilt. Because maybe, just maybe, you want to see the sunrise too. The silence stretches between them, heavy with possibility. Finally Caelum speaks, his voice barely a whisper. You would trust a monster to guide you. I would trust someone who sounds like he's forgot he was ever anything else. Another long pause, then incredibly he nods. Very well, Lara Voss. We hunt the fragments, but know this, by the time we're done, you may wish you had never found that map. The first fragment lies in the deepest trench beyond Greyhaven's harbor, where the sea floor drops away into darkness that even starlight cannot penetrate. Lara stands on the deck of her small boat, checking her diving equipment with practiced efficiency. The rope is strong, the weights calibrated, her knife sharp. Caelum watches from the shadows of the sail, unable to approach the water's edge where moonlight reflects too brightly. The serpent that guards the crystal is ancient, he warns. It was old when I was young. Its hide cannot be pierced by mortal weapons. Then I won't try to pierce it. Lara secures the rope around her waist. I'll be faster. Lara. But she's already over the side, plunging into the black water. Down she goes, down past where light reaches, down where the pressure makes her ears scream and her lungs burn. The rope plays out behind her, her only connection to the world above. She lights a chemical flare that burns even underwater, its eerie green glow pushing back the darkness just enough to see. And there it is, the serpent, coiled around a pillar of volcanic rock that rises from the abyss. Its scales are black as midnight, each the size of a shield, and its eyes glow with ancient malevolence. Between its coils she can see the crystal, pulsing with soft blue light. The serpent's head rises, jaws unhinging to reveal rows of teeth like daggers. Lara doesn't fight it. Instead, she cuts her palm, letting blood drift in the water. The serpent lunges toward the scent, and in that instant she darts past, reaching between its coils for the crystal. Her fingers close around it just as a massive tentacle, she'd mistaken part of the serpent for the rock, wraps around her leg. She slashes with her knife, cutting through yielding flesh, and kicks hard. The serpent's shriek follows her up as she ascends, lungs screaming, vision darkening at the edges. She breaks the surface gasping, the crystal clutched in her bleeding hand, its light pulsing in time with her racing heart. Caelum is there to haul her aboard, his cool hand steadying her as she collapses on the deck. "Foolish," he murmurs, but there's something in his voice that sounds almost like respect. "Incredibly foolish." "Got it, though," Lara pants, holding up the crystal. The second fragment proves equally dangerous. The highest spire of the old clock tower, abandoned since the darkness came, is home to the nightbird, a creature of shadow and nightmare that has claimed the nest as its own. The witches of the Veiled Coven guard its approach, believing the bird's presence keeps darker things at bay. Caelum goes alone for this one, moving with supernatural grace up the tower's exterior. Lara watches from below, heart in her throat, as he battles three witches at once, their magic lighting up the perpetual dusk with bursts of violet and crimson. She sees him falter, sees a spell strike him square in the chest, and she's moving before she thinks, racing up the interior stairs, her crossbow loaded with iron bolts. She emerges onto the highest platform just as a witch prepares to deliver a killing blow. Lara's bolt takes her in the shoulder, and Caelum uses the distraction to disarm the other two. The nightbird rises from its nest, a creature of pure shadow with eyes like dying stars. Caelum speaks to it in a language that predates human speech, a negotiation of power and respect. Finally, the bird allows him to take a single feather, black as ink but shimmering with iridescent colors when it catches the light. "You didn't have to come," Caelum says as they descend together. "Yes," Lara replies simply, "I did." The third fragment requires something neither of them expected, Caelum's own blood. They stand in the ruins of an ancient chapel, before an altar that still remembers prayers to forgotten gods. The map has led them here, to a place that predates the pact, and the inscription is clear. To bind the light, blood of the night must freely give. Caelum stares at the altar for a long time. "If I do this, I betray my people. The Night Council will consider it treason." "Then why are you still here?" He looks at her, really looks at her, and something in his expression shifts. "Because you make me remember what it was like to hope." He draws a silver blade and makes a shallow cut across his palm. The blood that wells up is darker than human blood, almost black in the dim light. It drips into a crystal vial that seems to have been waiting centuries for this moment. The instant his blood touches the vial, something changes. The chapel brightens imperceptibly, and Caelum gasps, pressing his hand to his chest. "What's wrong?" "The pact," he whispers. "It felt me break faith, they know." They retreat to Lara's workshop, barricading the door. The three fragments lay on her work table, pulsing with synchronous light, crystal, feather, and blood. Together they form a pattern, the beginning of something larger. "We need the final piece," Lara says, studying the map again. "The lantern itself, where the fragments will be bound together." The city's foundation, Caelum replies. Beneath the Night Council's own chambers. It was hidden there as a mockery, the key to breaking the pact, guarded by those who most benefit from it. Then we'll have to go through them. Lara, they'll kill you. The Night Council has held power for 300 years. They won't surrender it to a shipwright's daughter with a dream. Then I'll die trying. She turns to face him. What's the alternative? Another 300 years of twilight. Another generation growing up never knowing warmth. My sister will never see her own shadow in daylight. My nieces and nephews, if Myra ever has children, will be born into this same prison. Caelum reaches out, hesitates, then gently tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture is so human, so tender that Lara's breath catches. You terrify me. He admits quietly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched stars die and new ones be born. But you and your impossible hope, you terrify me because you make me believe it might be possible. Then believe, Lara whispers. She takes his hand, the one that cut itself for her cause, and presses it to the ancient rune carved into her work table, a symbol that predates even the pact. The rune flares with sudden warmth and energy jolts through both of them. For an instant, Lara sees through his eyes, 300 years of loneliness, of duty, of watching the city he tried to save slowly die in darkness. And he sees through hers, a lifetime of longing, of dreams deferred, of love for a people who have forgotten how to hope. Their hands remain clasped, trembling with the connection. If we survive this, Lara says, her voice barely audible, let the sunrise find us together. Caelum's other hand rises to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with infinite gentleness. Together, he agrees. For a moment, they stand frozen in that perfect instant. Vampire and mortal, darkness and light. 300 years of solitude and one human lifetime of hope. Then the moment breaks as footsteps pound up the stairs outside. The door bursts open, but it's not the Night Council. It's Myra, Lara's younger sister, her face streaked with tears and terror. Lara, stop, Myra rushes in, her eyes wild. Please, you don't understand what you're doing. Myra, how did you? I followed you. I've been following you for days. Myra's gaze falls on the fragments on the map, on Caelum standing in the shadows. The Night Council came to our house. They questioned me. They told me what happens if the pact breaks. They lied to you, Caelum says quietly. Did they? Myra turns on him with surprising fury. Did they lie about the war that came before, about the armies of darkness that would have consumed this city if not for the pact, about the price you paid to save us all? The price was meant to be temporary, Caelum replies. A generation, perhaps two, not 3 centuries, not forever. But now it's all that protects us. Myra is crying openly now. If you break it, those things will return. The demons, the void walkers, everything that haunted the old world, everyone I love will die. Lara steps toward her sister, hands outstretched. Myra, that's not. But Myra's not listening. Her eyes have locked onto the crystal, pulsing with blue light. In her terror, in her desperate need to protect what she knows, she makes a choice. She lunges forward and seizes the crystal from the table. Myra, no. For a heartbeat, Myra holds the fragment, its light washing over her face. I'm sorry, she whispers. I'm so sorry, Lara, but I can't let you doom us all for a dream. And she hurls the crystal to the ground. It shatters with a sound like 1,000 bells breaking, shards scattering across the wooden floor. Each piece winks out, its light extinguishing, until only darkness remains where hope had glowed. Lara drops to her knees, scrambling to gather the pieces, but they crumble to dust between her fingers. Gone. The first fragment, purchased at such cost, destroyed in an instant. What have you done? The words come out broken, barely a whisper. Myra backs toward the door, horror and certainty warring on her face. What I had to. What you would thank me for if you could see reason. She flees down the stairs, her footsteps echoing in the sudden, terrible silence. Caelum kneels beside Lara, his hand on her shoulder. There may be another way, the crystal's essence if it hasn't fully dispersed. There's no time. Lara's voice is hollow. The Night Council knows what we're trying to do. Your people know you've betrayed them, and now we're missing a piece we can't replace. Lara, we failed. She looks up at him, tears streaming down her face. We actually believed we could change 300 years of darkness, and we failed before we even truly began. But Caelum's expression has changed. He's staring at something on the floor, not where the crystal shattered, but near the table's leg. There, mist in the chaos, is a single shard. Small, no larger than a fingernail, but still glowing with faint blue light. Not yet, he says, lifting it carefully. Not while this remains. A sound from outside, many footsteps, synchronized and purposeful. The Night Council's enforcers come to collect their traitor. Caelum rises, positioning himself between Lara and the door. They'll take me tonight, but you can still complete this. The shard is small, but its essence is intact. Combined with the feather and my blood, it might be enough. I can't do this without you. He turns, and in his eyes she sees 300 years of loneliness finally finding its purpose. Yes, you can. You're the only one who can. The lantern's chamber will only open to one who carries no darkness in their heart. No vampire, no creature of the pact can enter. It has to be you. Caelum. The central square, he says urgently. Tomorrow at twilight, when the veils between light and dark are thinnest, bring the fragments to the old stone altar. Speak the words I taught you. And Lara, he grips her shoulders, his touch desperate now, don't let my failure be permanent. Don't let these 300 years of darkness be for nothing. The door splinters inward. Twilight in Greyhaven is a quiet time, the hour when day shift workers return home and night shift workers emerge, when the eternal dusk seems to deepen just slightly before settling back into its usual gray. Tonight the central square is not quiet. Lara stands before the ancient stone altar, the altar that has stood since before the pact, since before the darkness. In her hands she holds 3 fragments, the shard of crystal, barely the size of her thumbnail, pulsing with faint blue light, the night bird's feather, black as ink and shimmering with rainbow iridescence, and the vial of Caelum's blood, dark and swirling as if it contains its own small storm. Around her the Night Council has gathered. 7 vampires, ancient and terrible, their combined power pressing down like a physical weight, and in chains at their feet, Caelum, beaten and bloodied but still conscious, still watching her with those impossible eyes. You cannot complete the ritual, the eldest vampire intones. Her voice is like stones grinding together, old beyond measure. The fragments are insufficient. The lantern requires absolute balance, crystal for clarity, feather for freedom, blood for binding, and the lantern itself to house them. You have only pieces. You have already failed. Then let me fail, Lara replies, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Let me try and fall short. What does it cost you to allow me this one attempt? It costs us the possibility that you might succeed. Another council member steps forward. You don't understand what you're trying to do, child. The pact doesn't just keep Greyhaven in twilight, it keeps horrors at bay. Break it and the barriers fall. Every demon, every void walker, every nightmare that hungers for mortal flesh will descend on this city. Lies, the word comes from Caelum, forced through split lips. You told that same story 300 years ago to justify your coup. The truth is simpler. You wanted power and the pact gave it to you. The sun doesn't threaten humans. It only threatens you. Silence him, the eldest orders. A guard strikes Caelum, and Lara feels something snap inside her chest. Enough, she says, and there's power in her voice now, borrowed from desperation and love and 300 years of longing finally given form. I'm doing this. Strike me down if you must, but I'm trying. She places the crystal shard on the altar first. It barely glows in the growing darkness, a tiny point of light against all that shadow. The feather goes next, laid reverently beside it. And finally, she uncorks the vial and lets Caelum's blood drip onto the stone. The reaction is immediate. The altar flares with light, ancient runes etched into its surface burning with sudden brilliance. The three fragments rise into the air, spinning slowly, drawing closer together. The Night Council recoils, hissing. "Impossible," the eldest breathes. "The lantern itself, where is the fourth piece?" And Lara understands. The map, the quest, the fragments, they were never about finding a physical lantern. They were about creating one. The crystal for clarity of purpose, the feather for freedom from fear, the blood for binding between worlds. And the fourth piece, the lantern itself to house the light. "It's me," Lara whispers. "I'm the lantern." She reaches into the swirling fragments and grasps them, pulling them into her chest, into her heart. Pain explodes through her, bright and terrible and transforming. The light isn't just in her, it's her, burning away everything that isn't essential, everything that isn't true. She thinks of her father's dreams, her mother's fading hope, Myra's terrified love, and Caelum, 300 years of darkness searching for one reason to believe in light. "For the first sunrise we never saw," she gasps. And the lantern ignites. Light erupts from the altar, from Lara, from the very stones of Greyhaven. It's not the gentle dawn of morning, but something older, something primal. The first light that pushed back the first darkness, the original promise that night would not last forever. The Night Council screams as the light washes over them. But they don't burn, don't crumble to ash. Instead, they stand frozen as the pact shatters around them, 300 years of artificial power draining away in an instant. The light spreads like a wave through the city, cracking the darkness, melting the eternal twilight. Shutters fly open. People stumble into streets, staring upward as the sky begins to change. Black fades to deep blue. Deep blue gives way to purple. Purple softens into pink and gold. For the first time in 3 centuries, the sun rises over Greyhaven. Lara collapses onto the altar, the light fading from her skin but not from the world. She's dimly aware of chaos around her, the Night Council fleeing, their power broken, citizens pouring into the square, weeping at the sight of true mourning, and Caelum, chains shattered, crawling toward her. "Lara!" His hands find her face and they're warm. She blinks up at him in wonder. His skin, always pale as moonlight, is flushing with color. His eyes, always cold silver, are brightening to something almost human. "The pact," he whispers in amazement. "Breaking it severed my connection to the night. I'm human." Lara manages a weak smile. Surprise. He laughs, and it's the most beautiful sound she's ever heard, pure and unguarded, 3 centuries of weight lifting in an instant. 300 years as a vampire, and you make me mortal in a single morning. Is that bad? It's terrifying. He helps her sit up, and they turn together to watch the sun clear the horizon. Golden light spills over the city, painting buildings that have only known shadow. Flowers that had been closed tight for generations begin to open. Birds, actual birds, not creatures of nightmare, take wing from the cliffs. People are everywhere now, flooding the square, laughing and crying and holding each other as they experience warmth on their skin for the first time. Children who had only heard stories of the sun reach their hands toward the light, giggling as shadows, real, natural shadows, stretch out behind them. "We did it," Lara breathes. "You did it." Caelum's arm wraps around her shoulders, pulling her close. "I spent 3 centuries trying to justify the darkness. You ended it in 3 days by refusing to accept that it was necessary. You helped the blood. Was the least I could offer." He tilts her face toward his. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. Not mortality, though that's its own gift, but purpose, hope, the belief that tomorrow might be better than today." The sun continues to rise, turning the sky brilliant shades of orange and gold. Lara can feel its warmth sinking into her bones, chasing away the chill of 300 years. Around them, Greyhaven is transforming, not physically, but in spirit, in possibility, in the simple knowledge that the night will not last forever. "Caelum," she says softly. "Yes. Thank you for trusting me, for believing me when I said it was possible. Thank you for showing me I was wrong." He leans closer, his breath warm against her lips. "For 300 years I believed the darkness was necessary. I was mistaken. There is always another way if we're brave enough to search for it." Their lips meet as the sun finally clears the horizon, bathing them both in golden light. The kiss tastes of hope and morning and the promise of all the tomorrows they almost didn't have. Around them, the city celebrates, but in that moment, there are only two people: a former vampire learning to be human again, and a shipwright's daughter who dared to believe the night could end. When they finally part, Lara realizes tears are streaming down both their faces. "What do we do now?" she asks. Caelum smiles, and in the sunlight he looks young, not the ancient creature who guarded the pact, but the man he might have been if darkness had never claimed him. Now we live, we rebuild, we teach your people to remember the sun and my people to survive without the night. And he takes her hand, interlacing their fingers, we see what tomorrow brings." Somewhere in the crowd, Lara spots Myra, staring up at the sunrise with wonder and dawning understanding on her face. Their eyes meet across the square, and Lara sees her sister mouth two words: "I'm sorry." Lara nods, forgiveness given freely. Fear had driven Myra to betray them, but love, for family, for home, for the possibility of something better, had driven Lara to persist. In the end, love proved stronger. On the altar behind them, a small flame continues to burn, not the fragments anymore, but something new. The star-forged lantern, reborn not as an object but as a promise. As long as that flame burns, Greyhaven will remember that darkness is not forever, that hope is not foolish, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is believe tomorrow will be brighter than today. Caelum pulls Lara to her feet, and together they walk into the morning, two figures silhouetted against the rising sun. The city celebrates around them. 300 years of twilight finally ended, and ahead of them stretches a future they almost didn't have, full of uncertainty, yes, but also full of light. The lantern's flame flickers on the altar, steady and eternal, a reminder of the night that ended and the hope that brought the dawn. Fade to silence, leaving only the soft crackling of the eternal flame and the distant sound of a city waking to its first true morning in 3 centuries.